I went back to the Mae Young Classic in 2018.
Right.
That was really cool. That was kind of the very beginning of like my whole evolution of like this big transformation I've had internally. But it was cool to go back and wrestle because it was more so on my terms. Like I felt like I had just evolved so much since I had left, and like I had started getting all my tattoos, and I looked different, and like I had the opportunity to sit down with Michael Cole and be like, dude, that was because I know that I don't know if he feels, I think he might feel a little bit bad about like, because he was the main commentary he on NXT when we were, and he was so mean to us. And like, he really, as a commentator, you have so much ability to shift people's perspective and mindset, the people at home watching TV, right? The match. And he just shit on us like so much. And I know
he was taking phone calls. He was playing games on his phone. Yeah, it was brutal.
Like, it was funny, but it also made us feel like shit.
Yeah.
Like, and it other people shit on us because of it, like fans, like and it was just added more to the whole concept of like, people used to refer to the Divas matches as bathroom breaks.
Sure.
And so it didn't help our cause because it was the first ever all-female season. And like, they were just shitting on us still. Like there was nothing to elevate the women for a long time. And I know he was just doing his job, and he was just, making his name. And so I had the opportunity to sit down with him and Beth and Renee, because they did the commentary for the Mae Young in 2018. And I've always loved Renee. She's the coolest person ever. So genuinely cool. And Beth, if anyone, so besides like Eve and AJ, Beth, like she's as cool as she seems, like in real life. Like she's such a dope ass person, and she really loves wrestling, and she cared so much. But she was caught up too in trying to get a spot on TV and stuff. So, but she always like took me under her wing. And especially when there was like people giving me a lot of shit, she would be there. And yeah, she was amazing. I traveled with her for a little bit. But yeah, so it was cool to sit down with the three of them and really just talk about, because they were like, what's the story? Like, what do you want to talk about during your matches? And I told them, I was like, it's so much more about this evolution of like who I am. And I told, and Michael Cole was like, he apologized about, like how that during that time. And I was like, like, I get it. I totally get it. It wasn't personal, obviously, but it was cool to have that moment, like that we all kind of came back after, however many years. And it was like so cool. And so my first match with the Mae Young, was pretty short. I forget her name. It's horrible. She was the really like tall, strong Indian girl. We had like a brief match, but it was pretty physical. And then my second match was with Mae Young, and she's dope because she's always worn my Celestial Body. She's always worn my brand.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And she's always repped it and posted about it. And then, so I got to meet her in person for the first time when I found out we were going to wrestle each other. And like, we had such a great match, and we just had such a cool chemistry. And I loved that match we had. And then literally like she got signed right that day, like right after our match ended, like Triple H came out and like signed her. So it was like such a cool like sign off moment for me, because like I felt like she had worked so hard to be there and like had earned it so much. And I have a lot of respect for her. So it was so gratifying. It felt so good. Yeah. And I did an interview after that second match, and I was like, if I never wrestle for WWE ever again, like I'm completely content. And they offered me a contract after that.
Wow. Really?
But it was like essentially like a developmental contract.
Okay.
And just, it wasn't right for me. And like, I was kind of stepping into this point in my life where I'm like, I'm just not going to accept things that I feel like are less than what my value is. And like, because I did that for so long, like I would have signed anything with the first time around when I got signed by WWE. I would have accepted anything just because like, I need this so bad type of mentality. But like, it was hard to be like, no, but I'm like, I'm done saying yes to things that I don't feel like align with me. Yeah. So, and that moment was like pretty big for me. And then so like, I'm so like good with everything that went down. And those moments were really so much of were the little pebbles that started creating the wave of like this big transformation and like what I do now. Cause like, the business I have now, I started with my fiance, and it's called Project This Is Me. And it's literally about helping people like step into exactly who they are without all the things that like they've always thought they've had to be, the boxes that they place themselves. Cause like, think about it. Like we spend our whole lives like trying to be what we think we should be, to be accepted, loved, validated. Right. So, and that's all I did my whole life was like, you know, a lot of my pain and trauma came from just like all of us, like my childhood, and like those really deeply rooted things that whether they're family dynamics or a traumatic event or whatever, not receiving love or whatever it is, like you form conclusions around the world about the world very early on before your frontal cortex is developed. And so like before you're the age of like 8, you don't have logical thinking. So when something happens to you, or you have like a very repetitive family dynamic where you either don't feel loved, you don't feel able to, you don't feel heard, or you don't feel like you're allowed to express yourself, you form conclusions, deeply rooted conclusions about who you are and what the world is. And you carry those conclusions subconsciously with you throughout your life. So all of the clients that we work with, we spend so much time helping them access these really deeply rooted things. And sometimes stuff is so painful that like we don't allow ourselves to access them because like, you know, as a society, as a culture, we're never taught how to process pain, how to process emotions, right? So most of us just suppress everything. And like the more you suppress it, the more, and that's why going back when I was talking about chakras and how you can get stagnant energy in your body, like your body holds on to pain and unexpressed emotion forever until you express it. And so like we walk around so heavy, like say it's like we're carrying a backpack. Every time that something happens to us that we don't know how to work through it or process it, or it's too painful to face, we just put another rock in our backpack and we just walk around with it. And so we're so heavy and so like, you know, we live in this society where people are so afraid to be who they are because they don't think it'll be accepted. And like the biggest thing, like what it all comes down to with what we do with Project This Is Me is saying like, it was never about anyone else. It's always about you. Like when you accept yourself fully, when you love yourself fully, you learn that you don't need it from anyone else externally, because we chase it externally. We chase it through our bodies, like love and acceptance through the way we look physically. Yeah. But all we focus on within our program is the internal processes. So when you can like face the things that you could never face before because they're too hard, you don't know how, and you can acknowledge them and like and stand in your truth, like you literally liberate yourself from these like mind created prisons we have.